You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, huge shout out to our sponsors. The Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. Adding to that is the Doghouse, and so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too, but I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedoghouseokc.com and follow them on Instagram at thedoghouseokc, and hopefully our pups will run into each other. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference, check out Bethany Children's Health Center. They're helping children reach their full potential as a leader in pediatric rehabilitation. They're also building a new Outpatient Center of Excellence, and it's going to be a landmark right on Route 66. Want to learn more or even schedule a tour? Just head to bethanychildrens.org and click on the Ways to Give tab. That's bethanychildrens.org. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike and here, host, back with another episode. We're down in South Oklahoma City today at Skyline. TJ Nance told me about this place when we did the podcast, because I always ask every guest, who should I have on next? And he mentioned Skyline. And it's amazing how another friend, Eric, a mutual friend of us, my guest today, also mentioned this place. So I love how that works. And so it brings us here today to Skyline with Chief Executive Officer Katy Leffel. I almost said Leffel because you said not to. Katy Leffel's on the podcast. We've just had a great tour of the building. There's a lot going on here, and so I'm excited to get into it and excited to tell the listeners exactly what you do here, because there are so many things. But let's set some context before we do. You told me that you were a board member before you're now chief executive. So let's talk about, which we'll get into, why you come here and all the background stuff. I want to know that story. But first, where were you born and raised, and what brings you to Oklahoma City?
Oh, good question. So I was born and raised in central Illinois, born in Champaign, Illinois, raised in Decatur, Illinois, made it to University of Iowa for college for undergrad, and then decided I was going to live in Colorado. And made my move out to Colorado, worked there in college at a summer camp, and happened to fall in love with my husband, who is an Oklahoman. And so you can see where this story goes. So my husband decided to go back to law school after he graduated, and it was between CU, DU, and OU. And he ended up coming back here to OU. And so that is kind of how I made my way from central Illinois to Oklahoma. Okay. So I've been here now. I think he started law school in 1999. So been here for a lot of years now, lived here longer than anywhere else in my life, but I'm definitely not a native Oklahoman.
So why did you decide to go to Colorado? What was that choice?
Growing up, we spent a ton of time in Colorado. I love the mountains. I had an uncle who lived there when I was growing up, and just really thought that's where I wanted to live, and worked really hard to get there. Did my student teaching there. I was a science teacher earlier in my career, and really thought that my first job was going to be in Colorado. Yeah. And then when my husband decided he was going to come back here for law school, we got engaged, and I ended up making the move here and started my teaching career here instead. Okay.
And you get to Oklahoma after being, in Illinois and in beautiful Colorado, and you think, I must really love my husband, because those are two great places. And you come to Oklahoma, like,
Yeah, it was definitely different and a hard transition for me. Yeah. Oklahoma is a very small state. Lots of people with lots of connections and lots of history together. And so, especially at the age when we moved, it was a little hard for me to break in. My husband was starting law school, which is a whole thing. And
especially that first year.
Yeah, and I was teaching with all these incredibly lovely 50-year-old women. And so, for me to kind of make connections and make my own friends was tough.
Yeah.
But I have grown to love it. We had talked about moving back to Colorado, but the cost of living in Oklahoma is pretty hard to beat. And we pretty quickly figured out we could have a really nice life here, buy a house pretty early. Mm-hmm. My husband's parents, who are lovely, lived here. And so we had some family support.
Yeah.
And we got to travel to Colorado a lot. So we really just kind of switched it and used that as our getaway vacation place for a lot of the years in our early marriage.
What was it about teaching that excited you and made you want to go into be an educator?
So I come from a long line of educators. My mom was a teacher. I also just think it's my personality. I like teaching. I like working with young people. That was all attractive to me. I also loved science, loved nature, loved being outside. And so combining kind of those two things, being able to teach science to young people was a ton of fun. I was an 8th grade science teacher at the start of my career here in Oklahoma. That makes a lot of people cringe, but I absolutely loved working with 8th graders. They're such interesting little people. And so really enjoyed that as a start to my career.
Yeah. And it was always teaching, never thought about doing anything else. Like with living in a family of educators, obviously you saw your parents teaching and you're like, this is just kind of part of my DNA and who I am.
So my dad was an engineer.
Okay.
So there was definitely a counterpoint to that. And so, but no, I think going through college, trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, I loved the science, but not enough that I wanted to be a hard scientist. So I loved the adjacency of getting the people part of teaching and the fun of being with the young people with the love that I had of science and having that be the topic that I got to explore. And there's a lot of fun hands-on stuff you get to do with middle school science, a lot of projects. We built solar-powered cars. We did Lego robotics. So you kind of get to be a little bit of a kid doing really cool projects with kids when you're teaching science.
Yeah. Outside of work, what's it like, growing up, growing as a young adult in Oklahoma City, your husband's in law school, you eventually graduate law school, and you're living in Oklahoma City. Take me through that time. What was that like? What's the city like? What are your, young adult aspirations? Like, what did you think you wanted to do? And then to counter that as well, what would you tell yourself today to one thing to do back then?
Oh gosh, that's such a fun question. Definitely when I started teaching, I didn't wait long to start working on a master's. One thing my mom had modeled for me as an educator is that she spent some time in the classroom and then she went on to become a reading strategist. And so then she was teaching the teachers and had kind of a career pathway that took her out of the classroom. Classroom teaching is incredibly challenging. And I knew that I wanted to have an option to possibly move out of the classroom at some point if that felt like the right decision. So I actually got my master's at OU in curriculum supervision development, so to be a principal. So I have my secondary teaching certification and did my master's in that. So that was kind of my goal at the time, was to go on and be a principal. But the way life works, by that point, my husband had finished law school. He was in his first law job. We ended up moving up to the city, and I defended my kind of thesis for my master's, and 2 weeks later had our first child.
Yeah.
And so at that point, my husband changed jobs and wound up getting a position that allowed me to stay home because, as a teacher, when you're weighing salary versus daycare costs, I finished up my contract after I had my son and then ended up being at home with both of my kids for 15 years. So, and during that time, still stayed involved with education through their school. I subbed at their school, ran PTA, did all of the things, volunteered pretty much full time. But then when I was ready to go back to work, decided to make a pivot. Teaching energy and mom energy were the same energy for me.
Okay.
And so I found that if I took a long-term sub job and I was teaching for a whole week, I would get home at the end of the day and my own kids, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of done for the day. And so kind of felt like maybe that wasn't a good choice for when it was time to go back to work, and ended up giving myself really a secondary background in nonprofit just through all my volunteer work through the years that I was home, and got really interested in nonprofit and learning more about it. And so ended up going back to that instead. And so advice that I would give my earlier self is the advice I now give to my children, who are both college-age young adults, which is, you don't know where your path is going to take you. In college, pick something, learn something that's interesting, start pursuing it. But there are many paths to a successful and happy life. And you certainly don't know where you're going to end up based on where you start. Yeah. And so just to not be quite so focused on, knowing and having that very specific angle for yourself, that kind of being open to whatever comes next.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really fortunate. And also, to have, like I said, you have two boys?
I have a boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. Have both your kids at that college age now. Yeah. And growing up in a world that's completely different to the worlds that we both grew up in, and life is ever changing, technology is changing, education's changing. That I'm sure that excites you as a mum, but also at the same time gives you a little anxiety sometimes too.
Absolutely. And I have one of each in all the ways. I have a boy and a girl. My son is at OSU as a civil engineering student, very focused on STEM, all of that kind of stuff. My daughter is a freshman, just finished her freshman year at a liberal arts college in Arkansas. She's a creative writing major. And so, it's just these completely opposite, divergent paths, and getting to just watch both of them thrive in their own ways is a ton of fun.
That's really cool to have that. What leads you into the nonprofit side? What part of your upbringing gives you those values to give back and volunteer somewhere?
Great question. I definitely was raised in a faith community. So Skyline's history is as a Methodist organization. I was actually raised in a Methodist church in Illinois. And that was a big part of the center of my growing up. That church happened to have fantastic youth programs, youth music choir, handbell programs and things. And I was just super involved in all of that. And so some of that service is baked into just being a part of all of that. Yeah. Most youth groups, we affectionately around here refer to summer as youth group summer, because we get a lot of youth groups that come through here. But that's a time where you're really in your formative years, can be exposed to a lot of those types of things. And then I also think at its heart, teaching is service. Yeah. And it's meeting the needs of people and seeing them for who they are and trying your best to impact their lives in a positive way. And so definitely when I stepped out of the classroom and was no longer teaching full time, I really had that need to feel that impact. And so started out with that volunteering through my church that we were going to at that time, ran Vacation Bible School and did children's ministries work through that for a while. And then when my kids became elementary aged, really got involved in PTA and helping with all of those things. And like I said, just through leadership in those activities, really kind of learned a lot more about the back end of nonprofit work. Yeah. And then so my first real job in nonprofit was at the Oklahoma Foundation for Excellence. And they're a fantastic group that supports public education. And my job was working with public school foundations across the state, providing strategic planning and networking services and just helping them to build their organizations. Yeah. So, and at the same time, I had been involved with Skyline, first as a volunteer. I like to tell people Skyline's dangerous. It's like a gateway drug. So, I started out as a donor through my church, then started coming down when a friend joined the board to volunteer and would come on Tuesday mornings and bag groceries for a little while. On Tuesday mornings, wound up joining the board and did 2-3-year terms as a board member, the last 2 as board chair. And then I rolled off to model that good board behavior to take a break between your terms. And at that point, my predecessor here, the CEO at Skyline, retired and did so a little bit ahead of schedule. And so was still really good friends with a lot of the board members. And they reached out to see if I'd be interested in applying for the position. And so I was, and I'm thrilled to get to be on staff now and be involved in that way.
That's it's really cool to have that, memory of coming down here with your church and being but you're volunteering at your church and your church has the connection to Skyline, so you end up coming down here and same building, the whole same place. Like over the years, that's really that's special to have that, and special that this service is still around and thriving, doing really well. What would tell me about some of the times on the board of how things were when you decided to jump onto the board both terms. And then, just the progression of how this place, how you've been involved with it and how this place has done, kind of impacted so many people over the years.
So one of the things that just really hit me when I was here volunteering is there are not a lot of places that you volunteer where you're very specifically face-to-face with the people you're serving. And so I love that aspect of working in our food resource center, helping people navigate the store, helping to bag people's groceries when they're finished, having an opportunity to talk to them, have a positive word. And you hear a lot of stories through that. Mm-hmm. And just, it's very eye-opening. I think sometimes people have a stereotype in their minds of what does a client of a food resource center look like?
Yeah.
What does someone who's experiencing food security look like? And so it really quickly banished that view that there somehow is a profile for this, because food insecurity impacts people of every age, race, background, story. You see people coming through that need help from Skyline. You would never know if you saw them on the street that they were someone who, needed some help that month. So, that's been a powerful thing for me, and sort of eye-opening thing that's a part of our work.
What then, I guess for people listening, if they're not aware of Skyline and you meet them in the elevator for the first time, and just that, hey, tell me about who you are and what do you do? What is Skyline and what exactly are the services that you provide? Absolutely.
So Skyline provides food, eye care, and clothing resources to Oklahomans in need. So we do that through several programs. We have our Food Resource Center store and our mobile food pantry. So those programs, our store is just like a regular grocery store, a smaller version. Our clients can come once every 30 days to shop for groceries, and the amount of food they get is scaled based on how many people they live with. We're fully client choice, so you shop just like you would in a regular grocery store. Mm-hmm. You're given a number of items you can choose from each section, but then within that, you get the choice of what you want to have for your family. So that helps us make sure we're being respectful of people. It's a dignified experience to choose the things you like. It's less wasteful. So they have that opportunity to shop, get the things they need, get bagged up, and head out with a substantial amount of food that's going to kind of take them through, hopefully, until their next paycheck. Our eye clinic provides quality medical eye exams to people who have no vision insurance. And the goal of most of those exams is a new prescription. Vision prescriptions last 2 years, and so we'll see a patient every 2 years if they have no other way to get an exam. And then they can order glasses from us. We can provide access to low-cost single vision or bifocals for $45 a pair. And then we have scholarships available to make that more affordable. Yeah. We have our own garden, so we grow a lot of fresh produce. Last year, we grew 7,000 pounds of produce that we distributed directly to the people in our store. So we want to make sure people have access not just to food, but to healthy food and food that's going to improve their quality of life. So we're really proud of the work that's happening in that program. And then our style shop is just clothing resources. We find a lot of our clients lack access to adequate, affordable clothing for their family. And so we're able to run that program like a thrift store for anyone in the community to shop. And we have a lot of patrons that have $1 or $2 in their pocket that like the dignity of going in and shopping, picking some things out. And so it's great that way. But we also take referrals from partner agencies and even walk-in referrals from people who are in need of more substantial resources for clothing. And they can pick out 10 free items for each person in their family so that they really walk away with a substantial amount of clothing that they need for their family.
Yeah. How has you being involved with Skyline changed you personally, your perceptions, your way you live your life? Like, how does this place impacted you?
Gosh, that's a good question, too. I think it is that perspective. And I see it all the time in people I know and love and the way that our society operates. It's so easy to lose perspective of how fortunate most of us are. Mm-hmm. It's very, very eye-opening to be here every day, to see the people coming through that need help. It really helps me center my life, keeps my perspective in the right place. I think it's helped my husband and I raise our kids with a really good perspective of what their lives are and the privileges that they have in their life, and gratitude for that. So I think at the end of the day, like I said, we just as a society have gotten to this place where we can just chase some kind of crazy things. And I think my involvement here day in and day out and the focus Skyline has on basic needs, the number of people that we see who are here for basic needs, is just a big reminder to me of what's really important in life, and keeping me grounded and focused on the right things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, you introduced me to your executive director, your assistant executive director, and she said that just the numbers and the stats of your impact since you've been in the role are impressive, and you strike me as the person that's extremely humble and doesn't want to talk about it because it'll probably make you uncomfortable. But for the sake of stats and numbers and putting it into context for people who are listening, how with using strategic partnerships and everything around the city and donors and all that thing, have you been able to make such a change and raise more money and impact more people?
So we just have seen a really startling increase in need in the city in the last few years. So I started in August of 2022 as the director. And in March of 2023, pandemic era benefits, extra benefits that had been in place for SNAP, food stamps, were rolled back. And we saw an immediate and sustained increase in the number of people needing help. And so just to give some context around that, we track a lot of metrics here, right, as any good service organization should. And so I'll just focus on one, and that is the unique number of individuals we serve every year. So not counting someone who's come 3 times for help this year, but just a one-time visit. Last year, we provided services to 25,015 unique people.
Wow.
And that is a 99% increase over the number of people we served in 2022. So we've more than doubled, basically, our service numbers in the last 2 years. And I ran numbers for a board meeting last night. For unique individuals, we're already at 10% this year over the same time period of last year. So the need for food assistance in our city just continues to grow astronomically. And so, as you might imagine, we've doubled our service numbers, but our budget has not doubled. Our staff has not doubled. Yeah. And so we have really had to lean on our partners, and are so lucky to have so many fantastic partners in the community that are helping us step up and meet the need. I'm super proud to say last year we also doubled our in-kind donation value to our organization. And so, it's not all cash gifts for sure. We were able to work with our partners at the Regional Food Bank to add some additional retail recovery sites to our pickups. So most of the food that we get, we order through the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma and their ordering system. And we get some allocations of items for free through them, through the USDA program. And then we have access to really great low-cost food options through them as well. So we have a semi-truck that's delivered every Wednesday morning. That's our main source of food. But we also pick up from 5 or 6 different retail recovery locations multiple times a week. So we have a Walmart neighborhood market, a Walmart supercenter we pick up from 3 times a week. We have a Sprouts we go to twice a week, a Homeland once a week, a Target once a week. And then we have some church partners that we go to on a regular basis for pickups too. Yeah. We've also been able to reconnect with Feed the Children. They've been helping us out substantially. I gave Mike a tour of downstairs, and we have some new refrigerators and freezers that we were able to receive due to a partnership with them. So we're working really hard just to sort of find all the ways we can to hustle for product, to help us find those free ways to get more food on our shelves. Mm-hmm. So it's really a team effort. And it's also just about building those relationships. I'm so lucky. We have a team of 11, including me, full-time here at Skyline. And so serving over 25,000 people, unique people last year with 11 staff members, we're all hopping all the time. But I can't say enough about my team and the job they do with making those relationships out in the community, because it takes every single one of us, working hard, being easy to work with, trying to make partnering with us as seamless and easy as possible for volunteers, for donors, for retail recovery partners, being responsive. So it really does take a real attitude of hospitality and connection to help keep all of those relationships strong and functioning.
Yeah. Well, and the charities and the organizations that I have had experience with the podcast mostly specifically focus on one area, whether it's clothing, it's food. You guys do clothing, food, and eyesight. There's all 3. So, each one of those could be its own full-time job, and you got 11 rock stars here, right?
I do. Yeah, we definitely, I like to remind people whenever I can, we do the absolute most with your donor dollar. Yeah. I can promise you that. We run a really lean operation. we're maximizing and making the best choices we can every single day to make sure that we're funneling the resources to the people that we help.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of the job that this team does with making that possible every single day.
Yeah, I mean, every day is challenging, but also comes with its own highlights too, right?
It does.
Like you have 25,000 unique people coming in. That's, and everyone that comes in the store has a touch point with someone who's working on your staff, right? And whether it's clothing, whether it's food, or getting a new prescription.
Yeah. And they all
as
have
a glassware myself, like it's not fun and it's not cheap to do that.
No, it's not fun and it's not cheap, and it's a barrier that a lot of people just have in place for years. And we have a lot of emotional moments downstairs in the eye clinic when people get that new pair of glasses and see the correct way for the first time in a long time. I mean, there's some tears down there on a pretty regular basis because it's a game changer. If you don't have good vision, it's hard to drive, it's hard to learn, it's hard to work, it's hard to see the TV, you can't enjoy reading, it's on and on.
Yeah.
So it's really making an impact on those individuals' lives.
When we were out back earlier and you showed me the garden you guys have, and not only is it a great resource to be producing food that you're giving, to the people in need, but as a teaching element as well. And you mentioned Travis, who's not here today, but the educator in you must love that you can host kids and teach them how to, cultivate and grow seeds and then hopefully have them back to pick what they've planted. Yeah,
it's a ton of fun. So I was telling Mike we partner with Adelaide Lee Elementary, which is our closest OKCPS school, and work with their fourth graders each year with a set of garden education curriculum that kind of goes through the winter time. It's kind of January, February, and Travis, our garden program manager, does a lot of hands-on stuff. Yes, I love it. I want to be the one over there teaching the lessons, and I've had to tell Travis and I had to tell the crew at Adelaide Lee. One of my dear friends, Lindsay Clinton, is the librarian over there, and she helps coordinate that program. And I've had to tell Lindsay, I'm like, I have to do, takes all I can not to step in and try to be a part of that because that's their thing and not mine. But I absolutely love that we do it. I think it's a great opportunity to influence the next generation and to have an impact on some urban kids that probably have no experience with where their food comes from.
Yeah.
And starting that education young and having them see and understand, oh, wow, this is how you grow a tomato. Mm-hmm. And we serve a lot of those kids. Those kids are in our neighborhood, and a lot of their families utilize our resources. And so it's been neat. Last summer we had kids come through that had done the Garden Ed program who would let our staff know, hey, I helped Mr. Travis, start the seeds for the tomatoes. I grew those tomatoes. That's a neat experience. And it's great for us to have those families have their kids having a positive experience with our organization too, outside of our services.
Yeah. You mentioned your partners. How has that helped you out in ways, and what are any experiences that you have with strategic partners that you have? And you can shout them from the rooftop if you want. There's plenty of them that help out a lot. But what are you most proud of with having the partnerships that you have, and then how does that directly impact everything you do on a daily basis?
We have so many partners. It's really hard to go down this road and just shout out one or two. I have to start with United Way. We're a United Way partner agency for our Food Resource Center and our mobile pantry program. And besides the financial support that comes through United Way and all of their supporters and donors, it helps us leverage a lot of new friendships and relationships every year. It's opportunities to connect with the business community. It's opportunities to have big volunteer groups come out for service. And it's just an outstanding opportunity every year to get in front of a lot of people. And the vetting process is serious. And so people know and understand that as a United Way partner, we're held to high levels of responsibility with our fiscal outlook. We're reporting to them on really serious, measures, and they're paying attention to all of that. So I have to start with that. I have to shout out all of our church partners. Starting out as a United Methodist ministry in 1968, Skyline has become independent. We're still a connectional ministry of the United Methodist Conference, and we still enjoy just absolutely tremendous support from so many metro area church congregations. And so we definitely couldn't do what we do without all of them. The in-kind donations, the volunteer time, the financial donations. That is how so many people have gotten involved with Skyline through the years. And it's so fun to hear people's relationships and stories related to Skyline back to the 60s. We have lots of friends who've been participating in Skyline for a really, really long time, longer than I've been alive. So it's really cool to hear all of those stories. Regional Food Bank, obviously, we can't do what we do without them. And they provide an outstanding network for me of all of the other directors of food resource centers on the western half of the state that are doing the same work I'm doing. I'm on text threads with them all the time. We're discussing challenges, problem solving together. So that's just hugely advantageous. Yeah. So
what do you wish people knew more about Skyline, whether they visit or they see, some of the things that you do, whether it's on social media or your website? What are the things that you wish that, they could take away from an experience here or just knowing?
I think, first of all, just knowing that when everybody does a little bit, it makes an incredible impact. It doesn't take a whole lot of time, money, in-kind donation, effort, but it's the cumulative effects of everybody working together that really drive our organization forward. And so, if you find yourself with a little extra time, a little extra money, a closet full of some clothes you need to get rid of, one of my biggest challenges has just been meeting new friends and getting people to know that we're here. We're so close to the downtown area. We're in a little pocket here that a lot of people don't get to, but we're really close and adjacent to places that people are all the time. And I think they don't realize, some of them, that we're here and how many people we're serving and the impact that our services are having. So I would just encourage people, come take a tour. We offer a monthly coffee tour that's just a low stakes opportunity to come and take a look. It's a cool way to see what we're doing with no pressure, have a bagel, have some coffee, walk around. And then I think people leave with a better understanding of who we are, what we do, and maybe how they might come alongside to help us make an impact.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The other thing too is there's a classroom on the same level that we're on right now, where you can host people to do, whether it's bagging things or coming. So it's, dive into that for me a little bit as well. I know people can volunteer and come down as their own group and help out, but how does that work out? What's the process? And then how, I guess, would they schedule that too?
Yeah, so it's really easy to sign up to volunteer at Skyline. The easiest way to do it is to jump on our website. There's a volunteer page. There's a little form you fill out that's just going to ask, is there a particular area you want to work in? When would you want to come? And then Lucy, who's our volunteer coordinator, will just reach back out to you and work to get you scheduled. We don't have set volunteer times because we operate different times, different days. And we don't want people to pre-screen themselves. If we put 9 to 11 as a service time and you're thinking, I can only come till 10:15, then maybe you don't fill it out. Well, you can come whenever you want for however long you want, as an individual, as a family, as a group. We can accommodate all sizes, shapes, and styles of volunteers. We're a great place for young people to get service hours who need them for high school, for activities. So we see a lot of people through the summertime that are coming for that. And then corporate groups as well. With some advance notice, we can accommodate large parties. And it's really helpful to us when we have those big groups come through. They can help us knock out projects that our team of 11 just aren't able to get to on a regular basis.
Yeah. What are some of the big projects and big events throughout your year?
So project-wise, we have lots of just ongoing things that need to happen on the volunteer side. Big events for the year. We just had our biggest fundraising event of the year, which is a luncheon. It happened last Thursday. Proud to say it was really successful. We made and exceeded our fundraising goal. But that's a great time every year to be in the same room with a lot of friends and supporters. We are going to probably be announcing soon a donor appreciation event happening in our garden, hopefully this fall. That's something new we want to launch as a way to get people down when the garden is in full bloom, to see what's happening and just to say thank you to all the people that help us. Mm-hmm. But really, on a day-to-day basis, we are just here grinding out the work every single day of the week. And it never stops. We have people coming through all the time. So we are bagging groceries every day. We are working in the style shop every day. We are helping people order glasses every day. And especially this time of year, we're out in the garden, harvesting things, planting things, watering things, weeding things. And so we need help with all of that. So we can absolutely put you to work doing just about anything that you want to here at Skyline. We've got a project that fits almost any group or personality.
That's great. Come on down.
Yeah, come on down. We'd love to have you.
There's a big picture of a horse behind you. Does that have any significance to your life or love of equestrian?
So it's kind of a funny story. My husband, as I mentioned, is an attorney, and all this furniture in my office used to be his law office furniture. And when his firm moved buildings, they told all the attorneys they had to take their personal stuff home and do standard furniture. So we had this in storage for like 6 months before I started my job. So when I started my job, I was like, I know what I'm doing with that furniture. So I joked that this is the Lance Leffel Memorial Law Office furniture. I want to tell everybody no donors paid for this furniture. Right. So no, the horse picture was just kind of cool, but we had it, so I put it up.
I didn't know if there was any context behind that.
No
love
context.
for horses growing up.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean, obviously, the things that you do here, with and the career you've had in education, it's kind of can be mentally taxing, right? You're busy, you're seeing things, you're doing things, you're impacting, you're helping so many people. How do you then find time to release? How do you find time to kind of clear your head and get yourself in a place where you can focus on strategically moving this organization forward without the day-to-day stuff? Because if we've always got our head down, I say that because when we've always got our head down working on, the day-to-day stuff, it's hard to forecast and look and build to the future. So
that's something that I work on every single day, getting better at. I would say personally, I am a big morning walker. And I walk 3.5 miles every morning. I meet a friend every morning at 6:15 and bust it out. That is kind of how I set my nervous system up for the day, clear my head, get myself in a headspace where I'm ready to come and meet the challenges here. So that certainly helps. And then, taking time to be in nature on the weekends and wind down. You have to have your outlets. Like you said, it can be heavy work sometimes. And we work really hard with our staff to make sure that they are using their PTO, taking time to rest, because of the relentless nature of our service and the hard work that everybody does. That's really important. As far as strategy and looking forward, the first couple of years have been really hard and making a lot of changes and updates and upgrades to the way that we do things, strategic changes. We're just now, I think, on the cusp of really getting to explode forward with making some of those visionary changes in the way that we're doing things. And part of that comes with teamwork and partnership. I have an absolutely outstanding director of programs, Mickey, and my new assistant director, Erin, who are really helping expand my capacity and take a lot of things off of my plate that used to be there so that I have a little bit more time to kind of look forward in that way. But listen, the challenges are real. Just yesterday, we got word that budget reconciliation was going through the House and that it includes $300 billion in cuts to SNAP.
Oh, wow.
At the same time that our AmeriCorps program got completely eviscerated and cut.
Yeah.
At the same time that USDA food programs that we rely on have been cut. We're in an absolutely unprecedented time for nonprofits and federal funding changes and loss and with no warning. The last time SNAP was cut, we doubled our service numbers in 2 years. So we're significantly concerned about what that is going to look like going forward as more and more people lose that safety net that was hopefully keeping them from needing our services regularly. We know our numbers are going to rise because we are that emergency source that people can go to. And I had a board member who I thought said it well last night. When you're working, sometimes multiple jobs, and you're faced with rising rent, rising utility bills, rising bills to insure and operate your vehicle, which you need to get to work. Those things are not easy to replace in your budget. But food, there are some places that you can go to shift your food budget. If you come to Skyline, you get enough food to maybe get through 1 week of not having to buy groceries. That's $150, $200 that you can apply to one of those other bills and those rising costs. And so we know that that is a big part of how people use our services and the way that this works. And so it's impossible to foretell exactly how much increase we're going to see in the need in the community, but it's going to be there.
Yeah.
So we have some real challenges set out in front of us. And so just the more that we can do to continue to get lean and mean, I'm super proud of some of the capital changes we've been able to make through grant funding. We have one fully brand new, one new to us truck in the parking lot. We just did some renovations of our building that I got to show off for you. So I feel like our facilities, all of the things that we could do and correct have been addressed, which I think is going to serve our organization well. I feel really ready, as ready as we can be to face the growing need that we know is going to come our way.
Yeah. Yeah, the building looks great. Like you said, bigger waiting area, outside waiting area with a kids play area. You got so many little things that might seem small on a balance sheet, but go such a long way for in person, right? And making people comfortable, and making this because it's mentally as well. It's not, it's hard to admit that you need help. It's hard to come here, right? Like that's the first step, is coming down here, and getting. And, coming into a place that's welcoming and bright and looks nice. And, the little things like that go such a long way.
Kindness, dignity, and respect. 3 of our core values. We want everybody who rolls through the door to feel like they're greeted in a way that's kind and welcoming, to be treated in a way that's dignified and respectful, and to receive their services in as warm of an environment as we can provide. Obviously, like all organizations, we have policies, procedures, rules, and things we have to follow, and we have to hold a line on certain behaviors. But we want this to be a place that feels warm and welcoming. And the changes to the lobby, I just can't explain to you how that's changed the whole temperature downstairs. Our clients that haven't visited us for a while, that continue to come in and see it for the first time, it's so much fun to see their reactions. They're just like, I didn't even know if I was in the right place. I just walked in and got confused, and but in the best possible way. And it's been fantastic for our staff too, because they do heavy work, and it can be hard to sit at that intake desk greeting people warmly, dealing with people and helping them the best we can with their problems, helping to meet those needs, having a little bit more space, having a refreshed area to do that. Having it turn down the temperature for our guests also turns down the temperature for our staff. So I'm super excited about all those changes.
Amazing. Finishing up, remind us what the website is, where people can find you, and then what, how people can help too, just if they're listening, they feel called, and
Yeah, we're always looking for new friends. So OKCSkyline.org is our website. And that has great links to our volunteer sign-up portal. Obviously, you can go there and donate if you feel led to that direction, which we would always appreciate, and certainly we'll do our best to respect and do the best we can for the donations that we get in the door. There's also just a lot of good information about our programming there. We just posted yesterday our new event video, so there's a great video in our media section that'll kind of give you an overview of what's happening at Skyline. That's a lot of fun to take a look at. And our annual report for 2024 just got put up there and just hit mailboxes yesterday. So if you want to take a look at that, that's available to take a look at too. So that's a good place to get information, and then has connections to reach out to us if you want to connect further.
Great. Awesome. Katy, thanks so much for your time. I love your passion, love your heart for the servant that you are. And, you have a great team here, and it takes a team. I know we'd be the first one to say this. It's not all you. It takes an entire team here, and it takes an entire team of your partners and your board members and everyone here at Skyline. This place wouldn't exist since 1968 without constant love and care and passion from this city. So shout out to everybody who has had an input in this place, and for people listening, I'll put all the links that Katy mentioned down in the description, and we will catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at OklahomaHOF. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, They do grooming and other cool things too, but I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC, and hopefully our pups will run into each other. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference, check out Bethany Children's Health Center. They're helping children reach their full potential as a leader in pediatric rehabilitation. They're also building a new Outpatient Center of Excellence, and it's going to be a landmark right on Route 66. Want to learn more or even schedule a tour? Just head to bethanychildrens.org and click on the Ways to Give tab. That's bethanychildrens.org.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.